Got 2 minutes. One glass of water.
Do these first.
Yeah, please.
Give the presentation.
Yeah, good.
Show cash. Pending balance in cash you showed.
Okay, let me look through that real quickly. Now, which page are you on now? Here, projected cash flow.
Yeah.
Beginning cash flow, they don't have $100,000.
Cowboys comments that thanks you notice.
So that's just.
Where'd you get the
That's over here on this.
projected year 3 now? Okay. This is my area, I write these, so.
Good. I'm gonna get right on you. Eric, can you go flip the switch for us, please? So we're on. All right, it's 4:30. Let's go ahead and get started, folks. If you have an agenda in front of you, I would like to have us go down and look at the discussion items first, so we have the people that are visitors here with us can give their presentations, and then they can leave if they would choose to. The first item on the discussion list is the council procedures, and Mr. Powers is invited to come and talk to us about what we can and can't do for a little bit here, if you don't mind, sir.
Certainly. Oh, no, I don't mind at all. I think the question has come up in the context of what can the council discuss at the time of a public input session. And as I looked at it, the cases that come up that councils get in trouble involve cases where items are discussed that are not on the agenda to begin with. The only exception really under the law now is for an emergency situation. We actually went through that scenario down in Lee County back after the 2000 or during the 2008 flood. There was a litigated case, went to the Court of Appeals. In that case, the district took action because there was a flood emergency, a declared flood emergency. We didn't hold public meetings, we didn't give the 24-hour notice. The Court of Appeals said that's fine under those circumstances. But the court's been very clear since then that you don't want to stray too far. It has to be a bona fide emergency. And if there is an emergency, you need to document the reasons why at your next meeting and explain why you took the emergency action without posting the notice and having a discussion previously. In the case of your public input sessions, I think that I don't think it falls under open meetings at all because you're not setting the agenda. The public is setting the agenda. You've told the public to come in and say their thing at your public input session. So I don't think anybody could allege you're discussing things that are not on the agenda because it's not published by the council. It's published, it's done by the public by coming in and saying they want to talk about something. So at that point, I think you can respond to them. I don't think the council should ever say, we're going to do this or we're going to do that. I think the better response would be to listen to the people, take what they're saying into account. You could refer the matter to the city manager, the city staff. The council could put it on as an agenda item to discuss at the next work session. All those things are perfectly fine. But the only time you're going to get into trouble is if you say, we're going to do this, or we're going to do that, or we're going to make a policy decision of some kind during the public input session, that would not be proper. But I don't think there's any reason you can't have a dialogue with these people. They're obviously here to tell you something, and something's on their mind, so there's no problem with that. Going beyond that point and indicating you're going to do something or take some action, I think then you've probably gone too far. So that's a real shorthand version of what I think you can do at a public input session. But any action should be deferred until later on if you're going to take any action at all. Just don't do it at the public input session.
So a public input session, does that include a work session like this
Yes, it would.
and the regular council meeting?
Right, because again, although it should be on the agenda, the way things work around here, it should be on the agenda. I'm just saying if it's not on the agenda and a citizen has something they want to bring up at a work session, same rules apply.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No?
I guess the question I have is, can we make comments like, I agree with you, or I don't agree with you? Is there anything wrong with those types of comments? Because that just kind of comes out, I notice sometimes. I mean, even with Tim Scott here last week, you know, there was some, I agree with you, and so I guess I feel like that's probably okay. I just want to question that now.
I think as long as you do it as an individual, that's fine. The sin would be to have some concerted action on the part of the council. In other words,
You just don't want to vote or, you know, make.
right. Well, or even if 3 people spoke up and said, yeah, I think we should do that, I would not advise doing that, because that indicates you may have made a decision on a course of action and set up a policy.
But saying that we agree with somebody isn't saying that we're going to take action on something, though. Just saying, I understand where you're coming from, and I agree.
Correct. Don't see a problem there.
Okay.
Unless 3 people sort of get headed the same direction. I just refrain from doing that.
So if ever you agree on something, Shane, I'll disagree, so we're legal.
I like the way
You just stay neutral.
I gotta give that guy a raise. No.
Or the third person just sits silent.
First 2 get a talk and the third, yeah, no.
I'm not saying, yeah.
Well, I think the reasoning is, if it's something that comes up for the first time,
Right.
you all really haven't had a chance to consider it at all, and you need to deliberate, or as I say, get some assistance from somebody else and figure out what's going on here before you move ahead. So you should be better listeners than indicators that you're going to do something. It's about that simple.
Thank you. And that is exactly the way I would like our meetings to run. So, great. Thank you, Scott. All right. Any other questions or comments, council, before we go on?
Nope.
The next item on the agenda is Thrive. Ms. Robinson is here to talk about her presentation, I assume.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone who has come here today to support Thrive. I also want to thank those supporting members of Thrive that couldn't make it here today. I want to thank our volunteers for making the homework help program a success. And last but not least, I would like to thank my boss, Brad Selby, for allowing me to take off work to speak to you today. And his boss, Eric Tislin, to allow me this opportunity to present our business plan to save the apple trees for a community center for the local youth and their families. We would like to start off our plan with a quote by Bell Hooks. For those who do not know who Bell Hooks is, she's an American author, a feminist, and a social activist. Her writing is focused on the interconnectivity of race, capitalism, and gender, which she describes as their ability to produce and perpetuate systems of oppression and class domination. She states, "If we want a beloved community, we must stand for justice and have recognition for difference without attaching difference to privilege." So here you see the agenda, where the first we start out with the history of Thrive and we end with the financial outlook. Moving forward, briefly, just a summary, a history for those of you that don't know already. Thrive was founded in 2012 by Superintendent Fred Starling and myself. Thrive is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have started to provide meaningful academic help and career guidance. And what that means is we have started our operations with a program called Homework Help. And Homework Help currently is being operated Monday through Thursday from 4:15 to 6:15. And the program is ran by 4 volunteers. 3 work within the Burlington Community School District, and 1 is a BHS Silver Cord student. They are all highly qualified to help tutor the youth. This program is shifting more toward certain days of the week, and we'll implement another program, our fall program, Girls to Women Empowerment and Boys to Men Empowerment, next month. Our mission is to empower the youth to make positive life choices that enable them to maximize their potential, to maintain a caring, supporting staff, to uphold relationships and community support, to provide a framework that allows youth to cultivate potential with the capability of making knowledgeable, responsible decisions as involved community members. Thrive stands for trust, honor, respect, integrity, value, and encouragement. These core values are what make Thrive thrive. We consider these not only our core values, but our values in action. This forms and defines our character. What distinguishes Thrive is our authenticity, which requires a lot of inner work. The keys to success, we feel that establishing a strong network of support with the school systems and the juvenile court system is the first key to success. The second key would be to establish an effective training program for mentors to increase their ability to be great communicators. And last but not least, to launch effective fundraising activities. Relevant statistics point to the increasing student poverty rate. As we know, poverty is primarily the main cause of crime and social gaps. Looking back at the first time I spoke to you, the council, and to the city, I had stated several statistics in regards to the child poverty rate here in Burlington. I would like to state further that as of 2010, Burlington's population has decreased, as 1,176 residents have moved since the year 2000. The Imagine Committee wants to see more opportunities for the youth in our community. With the youth, they're inevitably our future. They're the ones that provide sustainability for our community. The city cannot sustain itself if we see a large number of residents leaving. The Imagine Committee surveyed the community in terms of what the city, the people, would like to see improved. Steve Delaney, editor and publisher of The Hawkeye, stated, "Remember, these initiatives were determined through a process that relied on community input. So they aren't just ideas made up by a handful of people in a room who think they know what's best for us." The statistics show that we have a problem. I may sound candid, however, I still see segregated school systems. I see an overflowing of the prison population in the prison system, where it costs $86.53 a day, to be exact, to house an inmate. That means at an annual cost, we are paying at $31,500 to house 1 inmate in Iowa. We, the taxpayers, pay this. So $73,000 to renovate a building to curb this issue seems quite small when compared to this overwhelming statistic. Think in terms of how much we will save compared to what we're spending at the current moment. Our current operating position, we are located in the J Street Center. The entrance is on 5th Street, for those of you that haven't been there. We are located in the basement of the Senior Citizen Center. We have 1 room, which limits our operations. This presents a learning disadvantage, which is why Thrive is seeking a centrally located building in addition to a well-suited youth center. Thrive is in a startup position. Our organization expects significant growth within the 2012-2013 school year. Our short-term accomplishments vary from participation with the B-Town block parties to attaining grants from Walmart and Lowe's. I won't read off all of them. Our organization's summary consists of planning, coordinating, and implementing enriching programs, hosting field trips such as a future trip to the Historical Society in November, mostly on the early out days at school, and coordinating opportunities as well as advertise the activities. Our second program that we're implementing this fall is the Girls to Boys to Men Empowerment Program, and that program covers a range of topics from nutrition and health to bullying. We will also provide guest speakers and field trips, a brief outline of key Thrive activities for the first operating year that we will continue to maximize given the appropriate level of support. Number 1, to promote education. For number 2, vocational training. Number 3, strong interpersonal skills. And 4, reassert a sense of hope in the future. The financial summary includes the annual operating income-based quarterly. As you can see, we have allotted it's kind of hard to read up there for people in the crowd, $24,000 toward rent under the fixed expenses. However, if we are granted the $1 per year lease, as the Historical Society had paid for over 25 years, we would welcome that. Thrive plans to work in conjunction with the city and other organizations, and we realize it's going to take a lot of hands to impact lives. Ultimately, the goal is to get the building ready, maintain not at cost, but to remain profitable in order to raise money, as there are several ways to do this. The projected operating income breaks down the monthly expenses. However, with a large portion of the funding you can see will come from private foundations, such as the CDBG grant. Other huge funding would come from grants, which are given out to nonprofits trying to better depressed areas. The purpose of this business plan is to estimate startup and ongoing costs, identify revenue streams, and forecast operating expenditures necessary to optimize program activities. In addition to capital expenditures, which will be defined specifically in the last section, we estimate that our annual operating budget is conservatively speaking, $250,000. The funding strategy, there's 3 focuses to Thrive's implementation. First of all, the creation of a network of contacts, I should say, within the Burlington Public Schools. Number 2, recruiting and training mentors. And the third is the development of fundraising strategies. The layer of funding would come from private donations. A good portion of the funding would come from federal and state contracts. The third layer of funding would be through private foundations. The fourth, through school districts. Then business sponsors. And last, through fundraising campaigns. The marketing strategy will be to successfully sell this new resource to the schools and to the juvenile court system. This will be accomplished by a referral coordinator who will create and maintain a network of contacts that will serve as the referral source for the program. Brochures will be developed to sell the benefits of the program to both potential referrer and participants. The referral coordinator will provide progress reports for the referring program, school, or agency. The goal will be to build an effective marketing program on the success of mentoring relationships. The program's mentor recruiter/trainer will make presentations to Burlington civic and social groups, selling the benefits of participating in Thrive. Reward activities will be planned for mentors. These activities will be used to recruit new mentors from the friends and associates of current mentors. The core of the marketing strategy will be the creation of the program's board of directors, who will be chartered with the responsibility of selling the benefits of the program to the community. So, in essence, the 3 main things to focus on would be number 1, a creation of network of contacts within the Burlington Public Schools. 2, the recruiting and training of mentors. And the third is the development of fundraising strategies. Thrive has received an estimate from the city of Burlington, which supports total renovation costs for the Apple Trees Museum of $73,000. We have planned a fundraising goal of $100,000 to assist us with the renovation and restoration project. Funding will be procured from the following sources: private donations, federal and state contracts, private foundations, school districts, and business sponsors. Thrive has engaged a professional grant writer to assist with applying for the 2013 Community Block Development Grant. Another option would be to request a consultant to perform an Iowa site inventory, which would determine if the Apple Trees Museum qualifies for the National Registry, and furthermore, qualify for grants. The last Iowa site inventory was done in 1977, and it states, the Perkins House is associated with a major figure in local and state railroad history. Perkins was the major guiding force of the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad during its critical years of development, from 1875 to 1900. His residence here gave Burlington a very special status in the railroad network. Ultimately, Perkins helped shape what Burlington is today. Destroying what is left of a major historical building, the Apple Trees Museum, would not only wipe major history off of Burlington's map, but it would take away the wishes of Mr. Perkins, and that is that the building to be used for recreational purposes. So my question is, what are we going to do? We obviously know that there's a problem. We can either go ahead with current plans to build an open air shelter, which is, my knowledge, not in the People's Choice, and moreover does absolutely nothing to decrease poverty and crime. We can sit back and watch good residents move, or we can come together and we can create change, create sustainability, a solid cash flow, potential jobs, even pilot programs for other areas. So the choice is yours as to whether you will allow yourself to be a part of the solution or be a part of the disease. Questions?
How much money do you have raised already?
This is our plan of raising money.
And are you planning on presenting this to the school board
Yes.
as well as Southeast Iowa Regional Planning?
Yes.
And when are you planning on doing that?
This week.
So tomorrow with the school board?
Yes,
Do they meet tomorrow?
Today, Amy.
if I can speak with someone there.
Have you thought about working with, in conjunction with J Street on this move?
Well, as of right now, we've tried, but as far as the feeling that I get, they want to stay there. So.
In the basement?
Yeah. And that's not what Thrive wants to do. So we have a conflict of interest.
So if this program takes off, are you going to go with the program or are you going to stay at J Street?
No, we're going with Thrive.
Okay. That's what I need to know.
Well, go ahead. Well, I applaud what you're trying to do. I think it's great.
Thank you.
I am a numbers person, so I'm looking at, and thank you for putting this together. I see, though, this private foundation money of $240,000, $264,000, that it kind of all.
What page is that?
Page 11.
Okay.
Everything kind of rests on that. And I guess, I'm wondering, do you have a list of private foundations? Have you?
This is our plan. We plan to take the plan to those private foundations, to the school district, to other organizations, councils, and go from there.
So I guess my question is, though, what if you can't raise $240,000 through private foundations?
I don't really think like that.
Well, I
kinda
know-
think-
I know you don't,
I think
and I-
outside the box, you know,
Yeah.
I don't really, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but, I mean, bigger things have been done than that, so.
But, and I agree, that's true, but a lot of this rests on that number.
Right.
Because, you know, for $73,000 and the apple trees is not a very big thing, but the sustainability of the amount of money to keep it going every year,
And it's
that's
gonna
the
take a
big
lot of
question.
hands. It's gonna take a lot of hands in the community to come together. Like I said, it depends on the level of support that we get. So it's not really up to us. It's up, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. But is getting some of this money, does that have to do with, is that part of the Apple Trees building? Or can you proceed, you know, even if the Apple Trees building was not an issue, was a non-issue? Could you go forward looking for?
We're pursuing irregardless. What I'm saying is yes, that money would go towards the apple trees. That's the building that we are focused on right now.
Which I'm glad. I love the Apple Trees building. I'd like to see something done with it.
Good.
I just wasn't sure if that was a delay on, if you needed to hear from us, you know, on the Apple Trees building, or if you were gonna move forward and we could see kind of how things were going along with the raising of the money and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would prefer that.
I think you did a nice job presenting here, Alicia. One thing I don't see in here is an organizational chart.
Okay.
I think maybe that would help your presentation if you had some chart of organization that would show the flow of command and what you're trying to do.
So as I understand it, your key issue here today, Thrive is already in existence, and Thrive is moving forward, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are.
And your question to us is, can we use the Apple Tree building?
Yes.
And whether you can or you can't, you continue to move ahead with the program, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that from what I've heard, the majority of the people here would like to see that happen. I mean, I understand you as a council, but I'm saying from what I have heard from the residents in the community, there's a lot of people that want to see this happen. So we're focused on the apple trees, and you know, I hope that you see that the people would like to see the Apple Trees Museum used for that purpose.
Okay.
And have you have not had discussions with the school district yet, though? Is that correct?
When I first started out, I had a discussion with them, you know, and it takes time. You know, we had this idea and we came at it with them, and you know, it takes time. It's a work in progress. So now that we have the business plan, we can take that to them and show them and see if they would want to be a part of this, which I don't see why they wouldn't want to be a part of that.
I guess I would question whether they would give funding dollars to, I guess.
I think it would be in their benefit.
I
But
think
whether
they
they
have a
legally can.
program,
Yeah,
they have a program that
after school.
Kiwanis is working with, and I agree it would be in their benefit, but, you know, I'm just throwing that out there, I'm not. And the other thing I guess I wanted to say about your presentation too, because I just went through, you know, for the Capitol Theater, we had to do building, that you should also list your board and your board members, because it's important to see who, people, you know, who are working for you, or if you have members, you know, list the names of the people, maybe.
Well, and that also is going to come along with talking to other organizations. You know, we want to work with as many organizations that we can work with. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
So you're not really, this is a presentation, you're not really looking for an answer today, you're looking just to present, and then you're going to continue on to build your,
Yes.
build your-
Well, you know, I wanted to present the business plan, but I also need to present that to the organizations themselves. So, I would like if you would not make a decision. Not yet, at least.
I want to see what this brings. I know the system at hand isn't working very well. The dropout rate, is rising. So, if you always do what you always done, you'll always get what you always got. Don't let something that you hear discourage you. Keep at it and see what happens. I agree with you. Bigger things have been done. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Very well. Nice presentation. Thank you.
It was very nice.
Next, we have Public Works Department. Our new Public Works Director, Mr. Homebrecker, is going to give us a presentation about the snow removal plan, since we maybe this winter might get some.
Thanks, Mayor and City Council members. I don't know, last Tuesday was my first staff meeting, and somehow, I don't know whether Jim wanted to throw me into this mix real quick or whatever, but somehow this topic came up, and so along with several of the other people that are actually doing the work, we're going to visit with you a little bit and kind of update you. I'm sure that you know what goes on with the snow removal, but try to bring that forward. And I would like to tell you that we'd have as mild a winter this year as last year, but that may be a very tough promise to keep. Snow removal with Public Works is involved with two of our operating divisions. It involves our street sewer maintenance divisions and the property maintenance division. The available manpower that we have, roughly, there are, I think, 26 people total that we utilize for the snow removal, about 17 in the street sewer department. Vehicle maintenance staff also helps out when needed, and the property maintenance has a total of 6 staff members that are used for snow removal efforts here in the city. A little bit about the equipment that's utilized. There's a total, I counted, of like 30 pieces of equipment that we use as part of the snow removal operation, along with 3 walk-behind snow blowers. The preparation and maintenance for snow removal is I'm informed, and I do realize that is actually an overall year-round process. After the snow you have to make sure everything gets prepared and ready for the next season. But we begin this time of year actually getting more in tune with everything that we need to do. And then during the, like you saw in the picture on the left there, during the winter months when we get ready for a snow event, the beauty of it is we have a nice building that we're able to put everything inside, so we're ready to go. And then it's very important that everything is washed and maintained after every snow event, especially when you're dealing with the salt and the rusting corrosion materials. There's a couple things that we do as typical with snow removal. The first one would be the anti-icing. That's when you do the process of pre-treating the roads. The vehicle up there is the type of vehicle and the vehicle that we actually use, where we go out and use a salt brine. This is on more of the priority streets. It's a 23.3% brine solution, and typically we use right around 1,500 gallons of brine per application. After the snow begins to fall, then we go to what they call a de-icing mode, and this we use a salt-sand mixture of 4-to-1 sand to salt, and once again with both we actually piggyback with DOT to obtain our salt. Property maintenance, the first layer that they do is involved heavily on parking lots and area, mostly in the downtown area. Some of those are circled here on the map that you'll see along the riverfront. They are all listed here, the various CBD lots as well as the depot lots, but this is their first wave. Oftentimes they'll come in, especially depending on the time of the event, but in the early morning hours, but Braden tells me that the goal is to have these parking lots clear by 8 o'clock. Their second wave then is to work on park areas and other secondary facilities throughout the city. When it comes to, I have seen, and I know that you've got it, I don't know if we distribute it to everybody, but Chris, we do have a very nice snow removal guide that we put out every year. This is last year's snow removal guide. The annual cost of this has been a little over $3,300 that we distribute once at the beginning of the snow season and somewhere in the middle of the snow season. And I haven't been instructed that we're intending to do the same thing and assume all the budgetary dollars and everything there to continue that practice. There are basically 3 route classifications that are used for snow removal purposes. The priority 1 routes, the emergency routes, then the residential routes. This one's a little difficult to see, but the priority ones are basically the bridges, overpass, elevated areas that tend to have the initial ice and snow accumulation first. You can see the list of these, the bridges, etc., that are below in this slide. Then we hit the emergency routes. These are designed to get all the main streets, and I'm told that basically every emergency route is roughly within 4 blocks of a plowed street of where anybody lives when completed. This is it's in your snow removal guide. This is all the emergency priority 1 and emergency routes that are part of our snow removal process. As part of the another part of this is the central business district in the downtown area, and this is one area where I'm told that we do, on time to time, if we get enough snow, have to actually move the snow from that area. And currently, the designated area we're taking that is that land east of Roosevelt between Market and Agency Streets. I think it probably has a local name. I know that someday you're trying to develop that, and that won't always, I guess hopefully that won't always be the place where we'll be able to take this as that gets developed. It looks like very prime land to have something nice go in there.
Amen.
Then the residential routes, these are the secondary streets, and this, everybody plowed gets within 2 blocks. They are laid out basically using when we get to these, the same as the sanitation routes, where we have 5 routes, and the Monday through Friday the trucks take care of this. And then once we, and there's another part of this a little bit later, once we get done with the secondary routes, we actually go back and do all the curbing of the major emergency routes. So this is there's various procedures used for a snow emergency, their declaration of that. It's automatic when there's about 2 inches of snow on the ground, and then it can also be declared by the city manager, and we have a series of 3 news releases that are utilized. We'll go through these quick. These are pretty quick. The initial service announcement, then the second one, and I don't know, are you guys all familiar with this? Chris is more familiar with the timing and everything of this if we have anything, but I think for the means of this presentation, we actually have these 3 that are utilized. And this final one. And I know at the end we do an announcement to let everybody know it's canceled, and that's what the third one is, isn't it, Chris? Yes. One of the recent changes I'm told that we made was when we would go around and when I did visit with the staff the other day, this isn't necessarily their most favorite procedure, because we go out and we do the emergency routes and we get the traveled street areas, and then from there, to provide a better level of service to the citizens, we move from there into the residential routes. Of course, their procedure is they would like to continue getting those streets from curb to curb on that and then go to the residentials, but this is one of the changes that's been made, and I think made from everything I'm told, maybe a better well-received snow removal program here in Burlington. So I don't know if there's any comments of this group
Certainly,
on this, but that's the thing that's been adapted, and I know it allows us to get to the residential areas quicker. And Chris tells me that it's worked well with the snows that we've had to date. Probably the only problem is sometimes if you get one of those where it hardens a little bit and gets solidified on those curb-to-curb streets, then it's tougher to get out instead of continue plowing on the major emergency areas.
The past few years, Chris, that we've implemented this, I think it's definitely been well received, and it's a better process. Yeah.
I can just tell you, staff likes the old way, of course, better, but Chris tells me it's worked fine,
I think our citizens like this way.
and that's what counts, isn't it?
How about we don't have no snow at all, and then they'll like it
Yeah.
always?
Yeah, we get another winter like last year, and we'll all be fine.
Just move, no, we can't move to Phoenix. Okay.
Yeah.
And Stephanie likes that better than anybody. Just a little bit of the operational facts. We use about 1,000 tons of salt we ordered each season. Again, like I said earlier, we use a 4-to-1 sand to salt mixture. We are able to piggyback with the DOT. And then we have to lock down in April of every year at what is an 80-120 agreement. So what that means is out of that 1,000 tons, we have to take 80% of that, or 800 tons, and then we're kind of guaranteed to get up to 1,200 tons. So I do notice that the salt bins out there are plenty full, so we're all set to begin the season. One of the things that's been my experience here as well as anywhere is that probably one of the most unpredictable things you're involved with is snow removal. From the fact that you just never know how much snow. Like I said, last year when they went through, a total of like 2,600 man-hours were used for snow removal. In 2011, that number was 58, almost 6,000 man-hours were used. And an example, in the 11-day, 14-inch snow event in 2011, there was 1,600 man-hours used just during that one event. So it's really one of the things we do. You just can't predict how much you're gonna do. But I do know that when I visit with the staff, I know that they want to try to do the best job they can, get out there, get it done, and move on. And that's really all we had prepared at this time, just to update you. I don't know if there's any other comments anybody has, things that can be done to improve the program. I know that no matter what we talk about now, no one's going to really remember probably everything till the first event, and then somebody gets a hold of you and they want something different. And
No,
I
this
can
is good.
tell you we'll probably be plowing a few people's driveways shut. We typically do that. Not on purpose, but that's just part of the.
That's the way it
that's,
is.
I know that's the experience they said they've had here, as well as my experience in other places. It always seems like we seem to come by right after they clean their driveway.
I just got one question. Are all the vehicles being used? I mean, do you have any spare vehicles during snow season?
Chris?
Yeah, so the people at home can hear what you're saying.
Typically on a day shift, most of our vehicles are out. The night shift tends to be a little smaller. We do have extra vehicles at night. Most of the time we try to schedule it with one extra truck sitting in the shop so that if we have one breakdown, we can get one worked on while the other one, so we don't have somebody standing around waiting for a truck. But very seldom do we have all the trucks out. In that 14-inch snow, we probably did have all our trucks out at one time. But we usually try to have at least one sitting there.
Now, when you have every vehicle out, do you have to get extra manpower to do that, or you guys already have that covered?
Well, we borrow from other departments or VM. In the past, we've had a couple snowbirds like from the parks that would come in and help us. But we don't, when we get all the pickups and the dump trucks out, we don't have enough people to run them all.
Have you ever had trash pickup help in the morning?
No.
Okay, anything else, Council? Thank you very much.
Do we have this in the budget to put this out again?
I don't know.
Because I think we
Whose
should.
budget is this in?
Yes, we do.
Yes,
Good job.
yes, 'cause
I think it's
Yes, we
helpful.
do.
Should be in there.
as far as I know.
Yeah, it was supposed to.
I always think it's helpful, and I hope people at home think it's helpful.
One comment I noticed in there too, and I mentioned this to Chris before the meeting, is that there is a code that says you're not to push your snow out into the street. So please remember that when you
They'll push it back when you come through.
when you're dealing with snow. All right, next we have an animal shelter update, and who's going to be doing that one? Are you also
Let me
there?
pull it up here real quick.
Okay.
I can get it here. Steve Hartman and I are going to tag team this one.
Okay.
Power plants.
First. There you go. Yeah, basically, Steve's going to go ahead and bring you up to date on where we are with the the construction practice at the existing building. And then I, with Braden a little bit, are going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff we're doing down at the old National Guard facility down by the airport that we've had to do to kind of make for their temporary facilities.
Okay, thanks.
I'll just speak through these slides briefly. This is a little background. Most of you on the council are familiar with this, but we've got Architectural Resource Corporation designed the new project. It's under construction by Myers Construction out of Sperry, Iowa. We, of course, here at the city are the building and project owners in partnership with Des Moines County Humane Society. When we first got into this project, we had some estimated costs stated around $939,000, and that's when the city came up, looks like May of 2011, with a $500,000 commitment, or half of the project cost up to $500,000. This project did come in lower than expected at $820,000. When the project started, we anticipated early December of this year as a completion date. You can see here that we've got currently a planned completion that's going to be in January. Several factors, probably one of the major ones being some of the soil remediation issues. And I say remediation, it's not a contamination issue, it's a quality of soil issue where we had to bring in a stone material as replacement. Okay. Just got some photos here. You're seeing on the left there a picture of the outside of the old and new building. Most of the exterior masonry units are installed. The photo on the left is interior photo. We've got some demolition on the existing building, and it's hard to see there, but we've got the stone material in place and compacted underneath the future floor.
Okay.
More pictures from inside, a little bit easier to see the stone base that's been put in. Picture on the left shows the orange vapor barrier. Those pictures were taken on last Thursday, and I believe the good portion of the floor is currently poured. That's all we have there. Here we're showing some of the interior of the existing building, ceiling tiles and floor tiles. We are going to need to do some removal of those materials. We discovered some asbestos content in those materials and working on a change order to get those removed. Some of the summary, financial summary to date. $820,000 contract. Currently at $165,000 construction completed or materials stored. That's a little bit higher than I presented at our last meeting. They have been progressing. Payment to the contractor to date's at $144,000. We usually have a retained percentage on projects like this. And here's just I mentioned some of the change orders to you at the previous meeting. These are isolated out 1 through 5 here on sort of the ones that we have good dollar amounts figured for. We total up there to $843,000, which puts us about 2.8% over the planned construction. A big project like this, especially a building project, there will be several more change orders. That's how the course of building construction goes. A few of those are listed at the bottom there. Apologize if that's hard to read. A little bit of looking forward here in the month of October. We've got concrete floors happening here early part of this week. The masons for the concrete block units are expected to be in Wednesday and work through several weeks. We're hoping they'll be wrapped up by around the 29th. Sometime during the middle of the month, we're looking at exterior insulation system going up onto that masonry wall, help working toward getting the building closed up. And down there at the down on the 30th, I've got truss systems should be delivered, and setting the trusses should start. And there on October 31st, it probably will be early November, mid-November, and the building should be closed up to where the interior work can start, and they could start adding some weather heating probably this time of year, not cooling, but some climate control, I should say. Is that the last one?
Thank you, Steve.
Questions on that part of it?
No, but I want to say that I like the way you guys present it, PowerPoints and things like that. That gives us a better idea of what's going on. Sometimes we, even though you come up in the past and gave us an overview, we also see it in front of us too. And I'd like more of that because then we could say things to the public too a little bit easier. So.
And I guess I have a question about the asbestos. The building was not checked for asbestos before the project started, and
I don't believe it was. It was checked, I'm going to say, within a week or two from today.
do we have any idea what that's going to run to?
I think it's I think it's just over $5,000 will be the construction cost to remove that material.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Well, the second part of this kind of talks a little bit about, what's going on in their temporary facilities. At the old National Guard facility, I believe that address is 2500 Sumner. What we tried to illustrate here is the aerial, that one portion on the left where it says animal shelter is the part where they are currently maintaining or housing the majority of the facility in that half of the building. The other line that's coming in is, it's a little difficult to see. There's a blue line basically that comes in. That's the water service line, and we're going to have to winterize that portion of the building so that we can add water to that as we go through the winter months. There is a dashed blue line that goes to the building up to the very top, which is where the police department is currently using for storage. And then at the very bottom on the right is where Parks, Rec, and Public Works have storage. So what's happened so far, this is part of the building that they're utilizing. They're utilizing the old vehicle storage area, the kitchen, the general office space, and the office area bathroom. So this is what they're occupying as part of the facility at this point in time. It was also necessary as part of this to board up certain parts of the building. What you see in the lower left is some plywood we had to put up to keep them just isolated to one area of the building. Then there were some other windows that were on the bottom is where it's boarded up on the inside, and it's actually painted dark and boarded up on the outside of the building. Another area that this one kind of ties with the next one, but we're going to have to winterize a certain portion of this building, and that red thing is, the red square rectangle there is meant to let you know that we're probably going to have to put some kind of a curtain barrier here to try to keep heat in this portion of the building. It's a little difficult to see, but the water's coming in on the middle back left there. That's where the incoming water comes in, and the pipes are in that area. And then there's a little green arrow that's pointing there, and there's a doorway that goes into another area that has some water components that are also going to need to be heated. But in talking with Braylon, we think we can put some kind of a curtain and just keep this portion of the building heated. And if they'd have gotten in maybe a little earlier, we were hoping we wouldn't have to go through any of these efforts, but this is some of where we're going to have to be at this point in time. One of the reasons that we have problems is the boiler inspector has informed Brayton that there's no way that you're going to be using the two heating systems that they have there. So he would never ever issue a license, and it's extremely cost prohibitive to try to fix or do anything with each of these systems. So that's where we're going to have to come up, and it's my understanding that the animal control people are going to be coming up with some form of a heating system, but there are some things that we have to do to properly prepare the building. This is a little idea, like I said, where we showed that blue line in the upper left, the water's coming in there. It's a little difficult to see, but in the upper right, there's another heater that goes with the boiler system that needs to be drained. There's a series of these other heaters that you can see in the lower left that were basically going to be drained and not utilized because the boiler system won't work. And there's a series of piping and water lines in that building where that green arrow went that need to be properly winterized. We're going to shut off the majority of these and isolate it and blow out the line that's going to the PD building. So that's basically to give you guys an update of the things that we've had to go through. I know they came in, Braylon says they brought in some temporary air conditioning, but there's going to need to be some form of heat that's put into various parts of the building. So
Okay.
we were asked to bring this, and this is kind of what we've done from one building to the other.
Well, we appreciate that.
You're welcome.
That's very good.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you, thank you. All right, then. We have a couple of appointments. I don't know, do we need to necessarily talk about those?
I can't even see them on mine.
We can talk about them next week. All right, let's go back to the top of the agenda. A couple proclamations, as usual, then we come to this public hearing and consideration of amendment to the Urban Renewal Plan for Neighborhood Development Program. And so, Eric, can you come and explain to us what that's all about, or is this Stephanie's
Yeah,
thing?
I can
Oh,
explain.
Stephanie's did, okay.
In the packet was also included the 2012 new laws to cities. I included that just to kind of explain. It talks about the TIF reform. This is the bill that went into effect July 1st of 2012. And so
If you go to page 2, the second, highlighted on, or second bolded, transparency. One of the parts of the new laws, now it's required that you do a project-based new public hearing on each TIF project. So now, on our agenda, the regular agenda, basically number 2 and number 3 is this consideration of amendment to the TIF areas. So every time we do a new TIF project rebate, we will have to do an amendment to the TIF plan. And again, this isn't something that we've had to do in the past, so that's why I kind of wanted to show you. It's just part of this new law that the House passed, the state legislature passed last year. So this time we are amending both our downtown and our Flint Hills urban renewal, because we have the downtown project is the Franz Holbert, and then the Flint Hills was the Weingard that we passed before, and then the sale of the Shell building. So that's why we have to amend both of them at a time. Normally, you'll just amend the one that the current project is in. So.
Questions, council?
I have none.
And this resolution will be forthcoming from the bonding attorney, and basically it's going to say what? Just that this project is going to take place. That's basically it, right? That's all it amounts to.
Yeah, what I have, it looks like a draft, I'm not sure why. But basically it'll say 2012 amendment, and then it'll talk about the project in that amendment.
Okay.
And it will have the dollar amount, the up to amount project.
Okay.
So it'll actually spell out, the amendment will spell out what's happening with the current TIF project.
Good. Okay, thank you, Steph.
You're welcome.
Anything else on those two? That takes care of items 2 and 3. And then we have a public hearing considering the development agreement with Franz Hobart. Do we have a presenter on that one?
I don't know.
Jason, are you going to talk about that?
Yeah, Jason Hutchison with the Greater Burlington Partners. I really don't have a presentation. We did the presentation for you. Might have been 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago.
Almost a month.
Okay, almost a month at a previous work session. At that time, we were not yet sure. We had to decide yet or evaluate what a potential appraised value would be on the property, and then what the resulting rebate would be up to a maximum. For a $4 million estimated valuation is what we seem to think was fair and reasonable. They're going to invest $10 million into the project, but that doesn't always translate into what an appraisal, a fair market appraisal, might come out to be. So $4 million seemed to be fair, if not on the low side. I would say it's possible that the valuation could end up being higher than that, but for the purposes of transparency and limiting that rebate, we went with $4 million number, and I think your city manager and the developers both felt comfortable with using that number.
Okay. And again, this is a not to exceed.
Correct.
Right, and it is a rebate. Always keep that in mind. It's a rebate. Okay, structured so. Any questions, council?
No.
Comments?
Well, now, what's this figure then of $1,244,333? Am I on the wrong page?
No,
No, that's
the-
it. That's right.
That would be the estimated rebate of the taxes.
Okay.
Over that time period.
That was 10 years or?
15.
15 years.
15.
Yep, based upon the $4 million valuation.
Okay.
And what we think will be, it's always difficult projecting property tax levy rates into the future and rollback and things of that nature, but we essentially use rollback on residential property where it is today and the levy rate where it is today to come up with that.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your work.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
And the project is moving ahead, I understand. Franz Hobart is actually in the building, checking things out.
I think they've been doing due diligence on the building, all in anticipation of approval by this body next Monday, and I think they plan to move fairly quickly.
Excellent.
After that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Wonderful. Then we have a public hearing, consideration of the sale of the property at 1702 Oak Street.
This is one of our NSP homes. We had acquired the properties there and removed them. There were 2 lots and 2 homes there that were removed and built a new home in this location. So this, through the neighborhood stabilization program, the individual that put a bid on it has to be pre-qualified through the NSP program income-wise, and also has to be pre-qualified for a fixed-rate loan through a local bank or a bank financial institution. So they do have to get that up front, so it will be, I guess, sold to that individual unless someone else comes forward with meeting those requirements and puts another bid on.
So we won't,
It won't be open to public bid.
No,
You can't just bid
okay.
on it because they have to be
Have to be
pre-qualified
pre-approved.
before they can even be eligible to make an offer on it. And this is the only one that's come forward at this time.
Okay.
So it should be anticipated to be sold to the individual
That
listed
is
here, Vicki Thompson.
a very nice looking place, by
Mhm.
the way.
So we hope, I guess, with all our NSP that it helps spur some development and rehab
you-
in the neighborhood.
Can you help me understand that we took down 2 houses and we as a city contracted with someone to build that house? Is that what we did?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And all the funds are through NSP, the program, 0 city dollars used in it, so.
So the 95,000 we get back, then does that have to stay in that program?
Yep, that stays in the program. We can use for future new construction, rehabilitation, or certain demolitions.
Is that how that money always works?
And it always has to be income tied, so.
A good program, Eric.
We do have a couple other homes on South Fourth that should be wrapping up in the next couple months, and
Oh,
hopefully
good.
a rehab on Gunnison that'll be wrapping up in the next couple months as well.
Good. Good
Great.
program.
Good.
And then we have 2 new construction starting very soon as well, so
Good.
let's
Good.
continue to move forward.
Go for it. While you're there, you want to talk about the next section here too with the housing codes that we're proposing to change?
This, I guess, as we mentioned last time, we have 2 fairly new housing inspectors, and they just went through their certification, getting certified, and both passed their exams. But one thing they, I guess, going through the process was looking at the code and if there's ways to update it, or looking at improving it from our standard and standpoint. And so these are some recommended changes that we have. I can go through briefly on them, highlight kind of the more key ones. The first one, as you see there, looking to have a better or more spelled out process for getting rental fees. Going through the process and examining it, we have some that haven't paid, and we don't want them hanging out there forever. We want a process similar to what our building permit requirements are now, so kind of a more standard requirement there. The second one, we've had not too often, but an issue where an owner or authorized representative wasn't there. We go through an inspection, and if we have questions or if we want to relay some concerns, there's no one there other than possibly a tenant to relay that to, and that creates confusion. Then when we don't issue a permit down the road and the owner has questions, we want someone there that can answer questions or can ask questions. And it's not an issue, it just happens a few times, and we want it to be consistent across the board. So that's something we felt was important as well. Some clarification for 16107. The next one on page 2, number 18.
I do want to mention, folks at home, you can go into our website and look at our council packet, and you can find these changes that Eric is talking about if you have questions and we want to bring them to our attention on next Monday's meeting. Yeah. Okay.
And we did email this a couple weeks ago to the property owners organization, so they had it ahead of
Wonderful.
time. So,
Good.
so we hope that if they have comments, they'll be able to get that back to us as well.
Have you heard any comments yet?
Get to it on the last one was the
Okay.
primary one, and then minor one on the requirements of who puts in the battery for smoke detectors. And so there might be a couple changes as we go through this.
I have a question overall, because I always talk about things being grandfathered in. Now, can will this just affect new rentals, or will this affect every rental? I mean, because I know there's been problems with certain properties, and they said they were grandfathered in. What happens with these new rules now on existing rentals? Do they now abide by these new rules, or is this just for new properties coming up?
This, I guess it kind of depends on most of them will apply to all of them. We're not looking at like windows where we're requiring you to open a larger area. Like the smoke detectors, it's just as you get a new permit or you apply
As
for
you
a
get
new
a
one.
new permit, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
so we hope not to have a great burden on most of these. The primary one that we, I guess, like some discussion on and probably will be the most discussed part is on page 3, the number 20, pest extermination. And this has kind of come up just through our inspection process and through our inspectors having to refuse entry into a few properties because there's thousands of roaches in the building, or I guess on a weekly basis they're going into buildings that have pest infestation problems, and it's something we'd like to see as we talk about cleaning up Burlington and having something a little, I guess, where we have quality properties in town. This was something that I know through our inspectors and them seeing it on a regular basis felt was very important. Whether this is the way to do it or not, we wanted to put something in place. Did look at a lot of other communities and talk to them, and a lot of them said this is a great idea, but well, you guys go ahead and then we'll use you as an example. So not a lot out there, a lot of support for us doing it, but not a lot of basis to base it on. So.
That's the one I had the most questions on too, because if you have a property that doesn't have problems with pest, are you still required to do the quarterly extermination program?
Under the way it's written now, you would be.
So that would be an added cost to the owner?
Owner,
I
or
mean,
if they
that
pass
would
it
be
on.
any rental properties?
It
at
applies
any-
to any duplex or higher. Single family, we know
So
it's
like
the occupant.
the Burlington apartments and all these new apartments that are coming on,
We
they
did
would
a-
all have to have quarterly
Yeah, we did an
extermination?
examination of the large apartment complexes in Burlington. Robinson Heights, Friedenheim, Maple Hills, Autumn Heights, Blackhawk Village, Burlington Apartments, Carrington Point, Greenway, Newberry Village all have quarterly. Actually, Burlington Apartments does it monthly, Maple Hills does it monthly. So
Wow.
all of those larger ones
Compliant.
currently do
Wow.
it.
That's good.
What we'd probably be hitting here more is some of the older homes that have been converted into 3 or 4 unit complexes, and that's where we see more of the problems probably. So, yeah, most of the large apartment complexes currently do it. Talked to some companies here, they estimated per unit, maybe a $5 to $10 at the very most per unit per month. One question, I guess, if there's no infestation, I guess our inspectors, why wait for one? It gets, talking to the contractors here that do this, professional companies, it's been brought from parents from their work into their homes, been brought from then the homes by children into the schools. One local contractor does spray all the schools, and it's not something you want to see kids have to deal with, but it does happen where children bring that into the schools and they have to do that as well. Estimated, and this is just a rough estimate, talking to them for some of the ones that don't have a bug infestation, could be around 25+%. They see roaches in pests in apartments, 25 to 35%. So it's not something that's uncommon, but something we want to address in some manner.
Okay, I
Whether
didn't
this
quite
is the best way or
understand
not,
that. You said 25% of what?
of apartments they inspect have pests.
sort
Maybe
of-
not a huge issue, but they see pests in the
okay.
home. So this is one that we realize it could be changed throughout the process, and
I like it. Bugs need to stay outside.
Well, I like it too, but I could see where the owners of the rental properties, the 75% that don't have a problem, are now going to have an added expense.
Well,
and we've
I
had
guess
comments
so.
on both sides. We have some that don't have problems that they don't want to
They don't
have
want
future
problems
problems,
in
and
Right.
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
have some that have had problems that don't want to address it
I guess I'd
themselves,
wonder
so.
how many rental owners do this already anyway.
Yeah,
It
cool.
would make sense.
Well, I
wouldn't
think probably most do, but I guess I wonder how many do it quarterly. If you don't normally have a problem.
it? Yeah, but-
And the quarterly came from talking to, again, the professionals that, they said most roaches have a 9-week cycle, so They reproduce in 9 weeks, and they develop anything more than or less than a quarterly, you wouldn't be addressing the problem appropriately.
So we just want to be roach-free.
Or we could hire Billy the Exterminator and take care of that.
And it is to be,
I like that shit.
under our code, it is to be done by a licensed professional. They are certified through the state, and they're using appropriate materials that aren't going to harm anyone. And I guess they have certain standards. We don't want the owner just going out and buying something off the shelf and
Spraying.
lighting off a bug bomb in their house, or doing something that isn't safe. So I guess that's one aspect that we looked at as well.
Do we have a classification of what is considered a pest, and or do we have a definition of that?
That might be something to add.
It says any insects, rodents, or other pests.
Okay, that's what I'm asking.
I think that'd be probably good to add into the definitions as well, though, just to clarify for people.
Yeah, that's under 16909. Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on that? Or? Okay.
No. We're okay. Thank you for doing that. I like being a trendsetter.
Yeah.
All right. Now, resolution authorizing the city council to execute application agreements related to the state and local programs to assist Alpha-Goma. What is that one about?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yes, Jason.
Maybe
Yeah.
Jason will
Yeah.
explain it to us.
Yeah. Well, good evening again. We do have yet another project occurring in Greater Burlington, and John Dockendorf with Alpha-Goma is here with me tonight, and I do have a project summary for you that was not included in your packet.
Thank you.
The company is located in Flint Ridge Business Park. It is an Italian-owned company, and they produce a number of hydraulic hoses for several different companies throughout the Midwest and North America. They are looking to add an additional production line, and the estimated cost of that is really between 1.5 and 2 million. You never know the exact cost until you're done. They have 46 employees today, and this new project would add 14 positions. The company is applying for enterprise zone benefits from the Iowa Economic Development Authority. The Enterprise Zone Commission approved that application last week, and the way that the assistance programs work, the city actually has to sponsor the application or apply on behalf of the company, and we cannot do that without your authorization. And I know you're thinking, what about a local match? If there is no increase in the value of the property as a result of this project, there will be no local match required. If there is, then what is required is the standard industrial tax abatement scale, which you already have on the books. We have made some calls with the county assessor. There will have to be some concrete poured outside. It's possible that that could increase the valuation of the property, but we're talking perhaps $1,000 or $2,000 in valuation on a more than $2 million building. So at this point, it's not likely that it's going to increase the value of the property as the state looks at it. So we do not believe there has to be a local match. If there is, it would simply be the standard tax abatement that you have on the books. And I'd like to invite John up here just to give you some idea on how this is coming about. Talk about just the company and...
Well, currently we have, like you said, we have 46 employees. We make hydraulic hoses basically for construction type equipment, backhoes, loaders, also used in some agriculture applications as well. What we're looking at for here is something that's actually going into a wind energy application. It's a new product for us in the United States. It's currently being made in Italy by our parent company, one of its subsidiaries actually. And we're looking at moving the production here as opposed to having it sit over there in Italy, that's why the new jobs, and that's what all the costs will be coming from. It allows us then to control costs a little better here. It also allows us to meet our customers' needs on a more timely basis, obviously, because we can make it, don't have to make it 6 months ahead of time and ship it across the ocean type of thing.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Great.
The only request, the way the resolution is written, the request is just authorizing the mayor to sign the application. We hope to seek approval next week at the regular board meeting, so we probably, if approved by you next Monday, would want to get that resolution and application signed shortly thereafter.
What's the pay of the 14 employees that are going to be?
It varies depending on their function, but it starts, I think the lowest paid will be 14 and it goes up to, I think, 16 an hour.
Very good.
Good.
And I know we don't have to pay that, but the enterprise zone incentive, is that the 10% tax credit and the sales tax?
For this project, I think we're targeting the investment tax credit. That's going to be the most important piece to accomplish.
And I know that's none of the city, we don't lose any sales tax on this,
Right.
because I know they take just the state, so that's good, it's great.
And this is within the county average wage range?
Yes, the enterprise zone rate changed effective July 1st, and that is now $13.68 an hour. So the requirements are that a company create 10 jobs paying in excess of that to qualify for enterprise zone rate.
Wonderful.
What's the time period on that?
Right now we're in the process of looking for and finding equipment to do that. We're looking probably to start, I think, right now we're looking at first quarter of 2013. So we're looking at getting the equipment here shortly, getting started.
And these new employees, are there any skill levels, or level of skills? that
Right,
they
well,
need?
we're having, one of the pieces of equipment is we're having some in-house training coming in. We're also doing some training, we're working with the college, community college, for some training funds on that, to do that, so we'll be working with them on training.
I thought when you got enterprise zone benefits that when you hired so many employees that you're only required to hire them for a certain amount for so many years. Is that correct? Or am I wrong?
The under the enterprise zone program, the rules change, but I believe you have 3 years to create the jobs, and then you need to maintain the jobs for an additional 2. So there's a 5-year requirement. If you hit that 5-year requirement, then the company's obligation to the state ends at that time period.
This is a good thing.
Yep.
Good.
Great.
More new jobs for Burlington.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, gentlemen. What we have left is a consent agenda. We only have 2 items there, nuisance abatements and resolution authorizing a contract agreement with the State Historical Society of Iowa for the Certified Local Government Grant Project. And I believe that has to do with us hosting a conference. Is that correct, Dave?
Yeah, that's just the contract approving us the grant funds for hosting a conference next year.
Okay. This is money coming to us as a grant. It's not anything that we have to put out as
No,
out of our budget.
and the local match is provided by the Convention and Tourism Bureau, but the city as the COG
Okay.
has to apply for the grant and be the agent on that.
Seems like that's the way it works, doesn't it? Okay. Any questions on either of those 2 items, Council?
Nope.
Or
No,
comments?
sir.
The appointments, do we have any committee reports? I do want to mention that we have leaf collection starting a week from today, and it doesn't seem possible that that's happening already, but leaves are falling, so remember you can bag or use your garbage cans, and they'll come and pick them up. Also next week, Council, you have a couple of open house opportunities. BNSF is having a reception on the Thursday next week, and the airport's on Friday. And you should get
And we have a
probably
goal
a
setting
notification on those. And we have goal setting
This Thursday,
this Thursday,
10 to 2 at the Recplex.
10 to 2 at the Recplex. And Mr. Morris sitting back there wants to know if anybody's going to come and talk with him on the radio, which I could be available to do that if someone else wants to. But
I think you got him.
are you sure? Anybody else want to join me, let me know. Okay, is that, thank you, Steph. Thank you, council. We're finished.
Thank you.
Thank you.